Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're back. Thank you so much for staying with us live from the den. LegacyInternetRadio.com. We appreciate the folks on MixLR that's staying with us and the folks that are hitting us up on the Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J fan page on Facebook. We know that you guys are keeping an eye on us on Twitter, NOHLFSTEPPIN, Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. We appreciate it. It's time to get into what we are here to do in this segment, and that's the National Basketball Association. And that's why we got Kdub rejoining us now live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. He's on the live line. Kdub, first thing I want to get into, and I know we kind of alluded to this a minute ago about Big Rube not really being in the best of moods. I'm going to try not to pick on him too much, but we do need to get this out of the way. So I'll try to snatch the Band-Aid off him pretty quickly and get this over with. Lakers got swept in the season series against the Clippers. Clippers win the Pacific Division for the very first time in their history, from what I understand. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the Staples Center on both sides of the locker rooms?
Well, man, you had it again where an LA team, well, I'm going to just go ahead and get right to it. The Clippers got in their ass with the Lakers this year. They showed that they were the better team, and due to that loss that they had yesterday, it kind of pushed the Lakers out of the playoffs. Only by half game on Utah. Lakers have 5 games left in the season, and it's not a cakewalk. It's not a cakewalk. They play in New Orleans, they play in Portland, Golden State, San Antonio, and then Houston. I would think that at this particular point, just to be on the safe side, if they could win out or maybe go, 4-1, possibly, it puts them in a better situation. But with the Lakers right now, even if, and this is a question that I would like to ask Rube, even if you were fortunate enough to make the playoffs, do you want to make the playoffs in the state of, it looks like a lot of confusion right now, in the state of confusion that you're in right now?
I mean, as we know, the playoffs, everybody starts at 0-0. I think, personally, that we'll win a game or 2 in the playoffs. But you know what? It could be one of those things that could ignite our team into win a series or 2 or 3. You never really know, because pretty much everybody's left us for dead regardless. Even in this playoff hunt, everybody's left us for dead. So I think, honestly, if the Lakers find a way to make the playoffs, you can say what it is, but you don't want to play the Lakers in the playoffs because you may see a different Kobe Bryant. You're going to see a different Lakers team. So I think I think the number one. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, though. You see a different Kobe Bryant, which is what we have seen during many parts of the season. We've seen pretty much 3 different versions of Kobe Bryant, and none of those particular versions have worked for the Lakers. You don't have Steve Nash out there. You have Metta World Peace. He's basically he may be done for the rest of the season. Maybe, I don't know how that will play if it came down to the last 2 games. How that would work out. You have Earl Clark, who yesterday I would say he 11 points and 3 rebounds. I would think that you would get more out of him. You have Paul Gasol being your second leading assist person in the game yesterday. It doesn't look as though that if they were to make the playoffs, that it would be any different from what we've seen in 3 different parts of the season.
But I'll say this. If we do make the playoffs, nobody really wants to play the Lakers. Because wasn't it, 2005 when, was it the Seattle Supersonics beat the number 8 seed, beat the number 1 seed? Was it 05 or when?
The only one that I remember is when Denver got somebody, the 90s.
Denver got Seattle.
Was it Denver got Seattle.
But that was in 2005. That was really early.
That was in the 90s.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, I guess my thing is, do you really want to give somebody like Kobe Bryant another life? Do you really want to do that? I'm not saying people will fear him. I'm saying things will get a little interesting if the Lakers do make the playoffs, because real talk, nobody really wants to see the Lakers in the playoffs because of their size and Kobe Bryant.
We got a hit on the Facebook fan page, Jay Grizzy, who hosts the Green Room version 2.0 with Jay Grizzy and Lissa P live here on LegacyInternetRadio.com on Wednesdays from 7 to 9. The host of that show is hitting us. Rube's going to be eating his words, yabbing about those Lakers, just like he ate his words about the brackets, GTFOH. I think we all know what that means. Lakers get bounced by whoever 4-2. I'm going to go to Carlton first on this one. What's your thoughts, bro?
First of all, stop putting the Lakers in there when they don't deserve to be in there. They've had a crappy year. Don't sit there and say you don't want to see the Lakers. No team wants to be seen in the playoffs, all right? It doesn't have to be the Lakers. The Fakers suck, period. You just hoping Metta World Peace comes back in time so he can get his gameplay on.
We already know that he's not coming. He's not coming back. Dub, let's go ahead and transition away from. Because I want to transition. We got a lot to get to in here, and I want to get Dub first, Carlton. But I do want your opinion on this one. I'm gonna let Dub go first, but I'm gonna need you on this one, Dub. Miami's been resting players, and there has been a lot of shall we say, media coverage with regards to it. And there's a couple of different schools of thought. Matter of fact, Dub, hold your thought. I want Carlton on this one first. There's been a lot of chatter on that. I heard a stat today that in the 6 championship seasons that Michael Jordan had, not his whole career, just the 6 seasons that he won the title, but for getting suspended for 1 game, he only missed 5 games due to various ailments in those 6 seasons. LeBron, I believe, is getting ready to miss his 3rd or 4th game. And, of course, we know they're just coming off of the streak where they had won a bunch of games. So my question is this. Do you, as Carlton Banks, not so much a Miami Heat fan, a Knicks fan, a Spurs fan who didn't get a chance to play against these guys, just you as a fan of the NBA, do you have a problem with, at this point of the season, knowing what they've already locked up, just going ahead and saying, y'all sit, it's cool?
Yeah, I do have a small problem with that because, again, you want to go into any playoff or any game situation with a heads up. You want to have that game shape, you want to have that game edge, you want to have that game mentality. Everything you want needs to be there. Granted, yeah, they deserve a few days off to rest because unlike football and baseball, there is no bye week once you're in the championship, once you're in the playoffs. It's do or die, go big or go home kind of situation. They had that big run, like you said. None of the players really were able to get any type of rest. It's not like Joe Popovich?
That's the Spurs. You're thinking of Eric Spoelstra.
When he rested, who was it? Tim Duncan.
Oh, with
the whole squad. You know, in the middle of the season, they hadn't defined or conquered anything yet. Whereas the Heat, hey, we already know we got first place.
Right.
What can you do? You can't catch us at this point.
Dub, what's your thoughts on the same question?
Man, I'm going with the great Hubie Brown, man. I'm glad you brought this up. Basically, Hubie Brown said, look, what you don't want to do is get your team out of a rhythm, especially after you have a team such as Miami on a 27-game losing streak. Winning streak, pardon me. What Hubie Brown suggested, and I agree with, is you still continue to start your starters or whatever. Now, this is barring if they're hurt. Someone like a Dwayne Wade, yes, you probably want to sit him and get him back to full 100% as close to possible. But what you do is someone like a LeBron James, you have them continue to start their games, and instead of playing them 40-something minutes a game, basically just cut it down. So have them start the game, play at an 8-minute clip, play maybe about the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, let them sit or what have you. If possible, maybe according to how the game goes in the second quarter, have them start the third quarter, but then sit them down after 6 to 8 minutes. And what you do is you continue to keep your rotation in flux. You start to increase some time for your bench players so that they're more acclimated to getting out there, because once the playoffs start, you have an opportunity. You may have an opportunity where you may need a bench player. You may need a player to come in and play some minutes for you or what have you, and that may be a boost to your team because later on in the season, you've given those bench players that may not have gotten time, you've given them a little bit more confidence.
Well, again,
you're still continuing with your rotation.
Let me ask you this, Stephen. Same question. You got a team that doesn't appear to have a whole lot to play for, that are taking these breaks. These players, prominent players, taking these breaks, and of course there are various injury ailments. I thought that it was kind of tongue in cheek when Eric Spoelstra said on the dawn of the Knicks game that his players were, quote, a little bit nicked up. I don't think that was a coincidence that he said that. But hey, someone could say that I'm, Nick sensitive. But my question to you is this, same one that I asked Carlton and Kdub. Do you have an issue with Eric Spoelstra resting these players when I don't think there's any doubt, particularly LeBron, not so much Wade, because there's talk that he may not come back into the playoffs, but do you have any issue with them resting with minor ailments, or you think they should be out there playing?
I do take a great big issue with it. Bothers me tremendously. And not to harp on history, but you look at the stars from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They always played. They didn't have the luxury flights, the luxury hotels. We heard stories sleeping on cots, all these other different things, and still played out 80 to 82 games the whole season. I personally feel like, you're cheating the fans. Growing up in both a big city and small market, small towns, it's important to see those fans and build that connection. You want a rhythm. In all the sports I was associated with, you always want a rhythm. You want some type of tact going into it. So when you're doing that type of deal, cheating the fans, someone who may just paid $200 or so to take their kids to that one game that they can afford to, the $30 ticket, parking, and then now your player's not playing, you're cheating the fans. Big
Robe, we know that the Lakers have a long history of being one of the best teams in the history of the National Basketball Association as just a few years ago. So I'm going to take you back to the time where the Lakers were at the top of the league, not fighting for the eighth seed. Let's say that it's the Lakers that we're talking about. Do you have a problem with Kobe sitting, Shaq sitting, whoever else was prominent during the Lakers' most recent heyday?
No. I have a problem with sitting people in the middle of the season, in which Greg Popovich did. I do have a problem with that.
That was in November. It was in November.
Yeah, I have an issue with that. However, now that he can't gain or do any worse, sit him. I mean, because when it's all said and done, it's up to them to perform. If your coach understands that if I sit you, this may mess up continuity or whatever, well, that's a chance that you take.
Right.
Than doing that. I mean, I personally think it should be a rule. I think it should be you should go ahead and just make a rule about it. If you want to do that from March to April or after All-Star break,
right,
that's fine. However, I think before All-Star break is a bunch of crap and they should be fined for it.
Here's my thing on it, and I'm going to take the last word because I'm going to move on to a couple of the other things that we need to get into in the National Basketball Association. But here's my thing on it. Most of my fanship comes from the perspective of baseball. And as a baseball fan, realizing that if your team, and I'm a Yankees fan, so I'm used to this, if your team is good enough to win the World Series, you're going to play 30 games in the preseason. You're going to play 162 games during the regular season, and you're going to play at least another 20 games during the postseason. So in baseball, you're going to play 200 games between the end of February and the beginning of November and of October. So there's going to be times you're just going to need to rest. That's my perspective. And I have no problem transferring that sort of logic into any other sport, with the exception of football. Football, you play once a week, get your ass on the field. But other than that, I have no problem with it. And I took a somewhat odd tact on it. I know people might be surprised by my position on it, but as a Knicks fan, would I prefer to see LeBron out there so that we can beat them? Yeah, but as a Knicks fan, was I okay with him not being out there so that we would have a better chance of getting that win last week? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a problem with it, whether it be in November or April. If, as the coach, if you decide that the player's not going to play, then cool. I think that it was unfair that Greg Popovich got fined and the Spurs got fined. I thought that was unfair because as a Yankees fan, if I spend my money to go see them up in Baltimore for that one Saturday or Sunday game that I spent my ticket on and Derek Jeter's not playing, oh well, I'm just out of luck. You know what I mean? What am I going to do? Am I going to complain to the Camden Yards staff that the Yankees who were traveling didn't bring Derek Jeter that day and he was healthy? That's the difference, because some of these guys are supposedly nicked up. Baseball players sit out when they perfectly healthy just to get a blow. So that's the way I look at it. You know, while I understand people thinking in a different way, that's just the way I look at it. I want to get one quick question in before we move on to the Knicks and to the Hall of Fame. Derrick Rose, Kdub, is he playing this year or not?
In my opinion, no. And in my other opinion, I don't think he should play. Just on the simple fact that, you know, that particular injury, it's not only physical, but it's also mental. And I think at this particular point, physically, he's probably ready to, mentally, he is ready to go. So why not just go ahead, let him, you know, sit out for the rest of the year and see what you get back with 100% Derrick Rose instead of, let's say, a 90-95% of Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose was injured when he blew out the ACL on April 28th. And it's been a year coming up in about 2 weeks, and he was given a timetable of 8 to 12 months. I would say that the Chicago Bulls did a damn good job this season. I believe they're right around the 5th seed without him, and I'd be curious, well, not curious, they already bust our asses 3 times. We play him next week. They already bust our asses a couple of times, 3 times without him. I'd be curious to see how much better they would have been had they had him. It doesn't appear, if things hold the way they are, doesn't appear that we'll see them in the playoffs. You know, it's possible, but I doubt it. And when I say we, I'm speaking of the New York Knicks, a perfect transition to move on to the New York Knicks. And I'll get to the Hall of Fame at the end of this piece here, though. But I want to go ahead and kind of state my piece on this first, and then I'll give you an opportunity to do so. Knicks on a 12-game winning streak. And at the beginning of it, in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about this, and you had a lot of people that were saying they hadn't played anybody. They got Toronto twice. They got some teams that weren't as good as some of the other teams. But if you look now, they got Memphis, who beat them in the game that you and I were in the building in Memphis to see. They got Boston twice. Playoff team. You can say what you want about them, but playoff team. They got Miami, which didn't have Carmelo, didn't have LeBron, didn't have Dwayne Wade, didn't have Mario Chalmers, but so what? Because when we beat them by 20 points and we didn't have Carmelo Anthony, we didn't have Amari Stoudemire, and our team wasn't at full strength. So all those people that's out there that want to complain about, it didn't matter, they didn't play their full strength. So what? We wasn't at full strength when we beat them by 20. And then, of course, they go into one of the toughest places to play in the league in OKC yesterday, and they put up 125 points. And Knicks don't score like that. The Knicks can score. I think they average 102, but they put up 125, and you had a lot of people that want to just complain about Carmelo Anthony. And I just want to know what's up with these people who are saying that the Knicks are better without him. The guy hasn't scored less than 36 points in the last week, 50 and 2 40-point games, and now there's 36 the other night. You know, and then the haters want to say that he didn't have any assists. But these are people who might be reading the stat book, but they're not watching the games. The ball was moving. Many times he could have scored 50 points in those 2 40-point games, but he ended up scoring 40 because in the fourth quarter he was getting other people involved. What are you seeing with the Knicks, Dub, that is giving them this kind of push? It's 12 point. It's a 12-game winning streak, and they looking pretty damn good right now, right at the right time with 6 more games to play in the regular season.
Right now, they're showing themselves to be the best team in the NBA right now. You know, they basically put the league on notice last night yesterday afternoon when they beat Oklahoma City, who lost only their 3rd game at home. What you're seeing from the Knicks is basically what you saw in the beginning part of the season when they went 18-5. You know, you're seeing defense, you're seeing ball movement, you're seeing efficiency. You know, people, they went 18-5. I mean, 18-5 starting the season. Then from that point, they went, I believe, 21-20. But over the last 24 games, they went 18-6. 1-1 against Oklahoma. 1-1 against San Antonio, 3-1 against Miami, and basically you're looking at 5-3 against the top 3 teams in the league. Can't say enough about Carmelo Anthony that hasn't already been said. J.R. Smith, another light bulb just went off in his head, and he's turned it up a notch. Last week he was the NBA Player of the Week, and just ironically this year, now Carmelo Anthony is the Player of the Week. Coach Woodson, his first 100 games, he went 68-38, which is the fastest fastest games. I believe they won game number 50 yesterday, and that was the fastest of any coach that coached the Knicks.
Yeah, he went 68 and 32, which is the best record. Best record in 100 games by a Knicks in Knicks history. 68 and 32. Yeah.
Yeah, they're peaking at the right time. And I think wholeheartedly, not just because of being a Knicks fan, I think they're walking around with the swagger. First of all, they're not scared of anyone, and they're going out there to take care of the first round opponent, which possibly would be Boston. Second round opponent might be Indiana, possibly, and then at that point, hopefully it'll be a matchup of Miami and New York in the Eastern Conference Finals. But right now they're just taking care of the games that's in front of them.
What is the ceiling? What is the ceiling for the Knicks this year? What is the minimum that they can do that would make you feel like the season was a success?
Well, the minimum at this particular point, I would say, is definitely have a good showing in the second round. Their goal to start off the season was to win the Atlantic Division, and with the win tomorrow night against Washington, that goal would be X'd off of their list. At that particular point, the next step would be to win that first round matchup, possibly against the Boston Celtics. Mark that off, and I would think at that particular point, you're just looking at your next round and let that be the check mark that you take off of your list, hopefully going on to the finals. But I will say, man, again, coming from the Knicks perspective, I was able to attend the game against the Atlanta Hawks, and talking about just that feel of being in the building, I will honestly say that, it felt like it was a home game for Knicks fans. It was blue and orange throughout the building, but one of the few things that I never experienced when I've gone to a Knicks game is just that feeling like they walked on the court and just felt like, look, we're going to come in your building and take over. And if anybody saw the game, you saw it toward the end of the game, the chant for Carmelo, MVP chant for Carmelo Anthony in a visiting team's arena was it was almost deafening, as if, again, I was in Madison Square Garden. Just that feel that the Knicks have right now is you can't explain it.
Steven?
I'm very happy to see the Knicks win. I just have, not to throw a dagger in it, but I have two concerns. The only thing is they're winning because they're outscoring people and they're hitting their shots and they're in a groove. But when they're playoffs, when it slows down, I'm not seeing hitting those threes traditionally is not going to happen on a consistent level. The second part about it is still interior scoring. That's not there. So, with not tossing the ball, at least having a couple looks on the inside, then kicking it out. That's my concern. Now, as far as Carmelo being the team better, there's no question. That's not going to happen. Carmelo is part of that team. My only effort is I want to see them go back to scoring from their defense, not just because you're scoring and having good looks at the basket and from ball movement, but score from your defense as well. That's what got them in the groove at the beginning of the year.
That's a good point, Stephen. When you bring up the fact that the three-point shooting that they've been getting in the last week or two isn't going to last, when the opposing defenses will start to clamp down and you won't potentially be getting those open looks, potentially when you get teams like Chicago and Indiana, who we know play good defense, particularly on the perimeter, but they also beat you up pretty good on the inside. Another thing that I do find somewhat distressing is the fact that our front line is depleted. When I see a 6'8" Chris Copeland backing up 7'2" Tyson Chandler yesterday, because literally between those two and Carmelo Anthony, they were the only ones that could have gone up there against Serge Ibaka and Kevin Durant and the larger front line of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dub, real quick, because I want to move on to one last thing in this NBA segment. Steven brings up a good point. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think that talking about the defense, I'll talk about the three-point percentage shooting. I mean, that was something that was brought up during the beginning of the season. An individual was saying that they couldn't keep it up, and if you look at the numbers, they have pretty much kept it up at a good pace as far as them making and taking three-pointers or what have you. I think that you are correct. Once the playoffs start, it does become more of a slow-down game. But, watching the Knicks, I think that they're going to still take those open threes, and it'll just cause more problems for the teams that they're playing. One good thing that I will say is that, you know, once the play start, they will have some more front line help. You know, from what I understand, Kenyon Martin maybe even playing as of tomorrow. You have Tyson Chandler, who yesterday played one of his better games since he's come back from off of the neck injury. You may possibly have, you know, you can take the bubble wrap off of Marcus Camby, and you may even have Amari Stoudemire or Rasheed Wallace available to you. Not saying that they would definitely be put out there, but they will be available. So I think that the possibilities are endless. And hey, you know, but through all in all, the whole season only has about 6 games left. They have proven that they are one of the top 4 teams in the league.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with you on that. I tell you, one thing that they weren't when Bernard King was playing for the Knicks was a top 4 or 5 team in the league. And we know Bernard King, former New York Knick, former New Jersey Net, has been elected into the Hall of Fame. It's funny when I heard the Golden State Warriors announced that former Warrior Bernard King is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't know that anybody knows him as a Warrior, but hey, can't be mad at them for saluting somebody that played for them for a half an hour. We got a friend of ours. We won't call him out too much, but CT down in the ATL from Jersey City with us. You know, everybody has their guy. You know, my guy wasn't Bernard, even though I appreciate Bernard. But his guy was Bernard. I want to give a shout out to our friend, your friend and mine, CT from Jersey City down in the ATL. His guy is getting into the Hall of Fame. I remember how you and I felt when Dominique Wilkins was elected to the National Basketball Hall of Fame. So give a shout out to CT, but also tell me what's your thoughts on Knick legend Bernard King finally being elected into the Hall of Fame.
Man, finally, you know, my man C. Turner, what have you, that's his man all day long, B. King. You know, it's reminiscent that it's kind of funny because Carmelo Anthony right now is one of the Knicks that has been compared to Bernard King. It's just his sheer scoring. But, man, it's a long time coming for Bernard King. A lot of people wondering, you know, what took so long. If you know me, and Marcus J, you would definitely be able to back me up. I've been a big proponent over the last 5 years, not just of him getting in the Hall of Fame, but I would like to see that man's number 30 retired as a New York Knick. I think it's a long time coming, and I believe that by him becoming a Hall of Famer, I think that you'll probably see that within the next year. I would definitely believe so.
Who else is?
It's a good day to be a Knicks fan, you know.
One thing I want to do, I was going to go and move on to the other Hall of Famers, but let's play this game for a second. And the listeners as well as the crew will have to indulge me for a minute. And if you want to be down with us, to get a comment and call us 804-402-2893. We see all y'all on the MixLR. We see MixLR blowing up. Hit us up on there if you got a question or comment, so that we can get you on, as well as on the Facebook fan page. We know that Bernard King blew out his knee before he had an opportunity to play with Patrick Ewing. Was that team, if you had those two as the foundation in the mid-'80s, would they have been good enough to challenge anybody for an NBA title, or would they have just been a really good team?
No, they would have definitely challenged for an NBA title. You know, if you ever asked Larry Bird who was the toughest player that he had to play against, he would tell you Bernard King. Anybody that played during that particular time, from Magic Johnson to Michael Ray Richards, even to Michael Jordan, they will tell you that Bernard King was one of the toughest scorers that you would have had to deal with. So you put that alongside of Patrick Ewing, a young Patrick Ewing that was, you know, just amazing people at him being a 7-footer, doing a lot of things, having a jump shot and post moves. What a lot of people don't realize with Bernard King is that he was one of the few players that, for his career, averaged over 51-52% shooting as a small forward. This man was averaging 29, I believe, actually as a 30. I believe, what's the age of Kobe Bryant right now? He's 31, 32, possibly?
Kobe was born in 78, so however old
Kobe's
that makes
34.
you. He'll be 35 this year.
At the same age, you know, Bernard King was averaging basically 29 points, and this is after the knee injury that he suffered. And keep in mind, he was averaging all of these points and he did not shoot a single three-pointer.
Yeah, he didn't.
His game was basically running up that left lane, running that fast break, or getting to that what we would look at today as being the mid-range game, and just killing you and just tearing your ass up.
What do you say? What do you say to the? And this will be the last question. And make your answer real quick on this one because I want to get a real quick in on the other Hall of Famers, and we need to get out of here. What do you say to the NBA analyst, particularly the guy that's on the 4-letter network whose show comes on at 10 o'clock in the morning nationally, and then the other guy whose show comes on at 1 p.m. nationally in New York? I think you know who I'm alluding to. What do you say to those guys who put Carmelo Anthony in the Dominique Wilkins class, in the Bernard King class, singular talents, great talents who just can't, won't, or never will get it done with regards to putting some armor on those fingers?
Well, the jury is still out on Carmelo Anthony. In regards to Dominique, Dominique Wilkins, Dominique Wilkins had a different type of game, different type of team surrounding him. Bernard King, we already talked about his knee injury. I mean, listen, it's all speculation. It's all speculation. We can sit here and say, if this person does this, if this person does that, but at the end of the day, those individuals still have to go out there on the court. We sit here and we talk about Miami and talking about possibly being the greatest team, so on and so forth. Well, all of that doesn't mean anything if they don't go out there and actually win the championship. The jury is still out on Carmelo Anthony. A lot of times people want to talk about his past playoff experience. Has nothing to do with what's going on with the Knicks right now.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Real quick word on Gary Payton. Real quick, one sentence.
Man, guys, the glove, one of the more animated point guards in the league, but he will give you the business.
Jerry Tarkanian,
the Shark. He was the head coach for one of the more entertaining teams out there, UNLV, with Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt. I could go on and on and on, man. That was getting part of my high school years.
Last name, Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino possibly may win his second championship with Louisville tonight. Played at Kentucky. Actually recruited one of our good friends.
Double R.
Coach, man.
Double R.
He was also a head coach of New York Knicks and was an assistant under Hubie Brown as well.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're gonna leave it there.
Man, just to round you off, I don't mean to interrupt, but also Guy Lewis, who was the head coach of Phi Slamma Gemma at Houston. Sylvia Hatcher was the women's coach at UNC, and one of my favorite female players, Dawn Staley out of UVA.
Dawn Staley going in too?
Yes, sir, Dawn Staley.
Dude, you see my excitement, yo. That was my girl, yo, for real. I'll give you a little bit of Dawn Staley trivia. When I can't remember the name of the league, but in the late 90s, there was a league that was rivaling the WNBA. And Richmond, Virginia had a team called the Richmond Rage, and Dawn Staley played for the Richmond Rage. So I remember going to see her play locally here in Richmond, Virginia a few times. I had an opportunity to meet her. She's a great talent, and she was very, very gracious. I had an opportunity to meet her a couple times. Unfortunately, that league, I think, only lasted like 2 or 3 years. They were playing in high school gyms, but they were a professional league. So very excited to hear about Dawn Staley. I was not aware of that, so I'm glad to hear that.
I could say she's an awesome lady personally. Knowing her personally and everything else, she's an awesome lady and awesome woman. I can say that. Ain't
no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the den, y'all. LegacyInternetRadio.com and MixLR Dub. We're going to leave it there, my brother, and we're going to talk to you in the future. Not sure when it'll be. Hopefully it'll be real soon.
Chris, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, y'all.
You got it. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. And of course, we're going to keep up with a little bit of 80s pop in here. We're going to play some music, get you a little bit excited. And then we're going into What the Hell. We got a couple of special guests in the building that we're going to introduce in the next segment, and we're going to get it in. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. Live from the den, y'all. I'll be back in a minute.